Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you how to perform these animations or record these animations using React Router and Framer Motion animation library. So Framer Motion is a React.js animation library. So this is their official website, framer.com. Then you'll be able to navigate to the API, see the overview guides, how you install it, and how you'll be able to use the components. So I already have this in my project. I'm going to leave a link to the GitHub repository in the description of this video. So if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe if you've already used it, and you have already visited the channel and seen my videos before, and you're yet to subscribe, please do so that support the channel, so that I'll be able to continue offering a solution to those who are struggling with their coding process or who want to learn something new. So as you can see, our transitions are very smooth, slick. See that? So we have a grid, and the cards inside the grid are animating out and in different times. So there is that delay between the animations of the cards. You can see that. You see, animating in a different times. Then the single product page is also fading in and fading out, and also changing its with it. So without doing so much talking, let's move to... This is the project without the animation. As I navigate through the routes, there's no any animation. Let me take you through the structure of this project very fast. I have two main folders. I have one inside the public folder, and that is the images folder. Inside the images, I have two subfolders, that is the logos folder. Inside here, I have the logo for my project, this one here. Then I also have the products folder. Inside here, I have the images for the cars, all these images. Then inside the src folder, I have a components folder, which has these files. That is the car.js, cars.js, data.js, and navigation.js. Now this is my app.js, which is where I have described my routing. So I have this navigation component, which is this nav bar here. You can notice that it's appearing in all the routes or all the pages. That's why it's outside the switch component. Then I have two routes, that is the home, then the car stroke ID. So the home is the one that is responsible for displaying this grid. Then the cars.js is responsible for displaying a single product page, this one here. Then I have also installed the React icons library. That is where I was able to access this icon that you're seeing here. I think that is all about the routing. So I'll now start performing the animation. Maybe before that, I'd like to mention that this cars.js is the component that is responsible for displaying the grid, this one here. And the car.js is the component that is responsible for displaying the single product page, this one. Then I have data.js, in case you don't know what its function is in my project. I have an array of objects, and each object here is basically the information of the card that is within the grid. Each card here is represented by the object in this array. Then of course the navigation bar, which is responsible for displaying this top navigation bar, the logo, and this menu icon that you're seeing here. Now I'll be doing my animations in a separate file. I have a file here called animations.js, which I created. So I'm going to clear everything here so that we shall start from scratch. Let me save that. Then I may also close this so that I have enough working space. I'll also close that. Then what we are going to do is to start animating the grid. So I'll be describing all my animations here and then export them, then use them in the various components that the animations will be required. So the way the grid is animating, as you've seen in the introduction, is that when this page is animating out, the animation starts with the last car, which is this one here, and then ends with this. Then when it's animating in, the animation starts with this first car and ends with the last car. So to be able to achieve that, we are going to use a variance whereby the animation of the parent, which is the grid, is going to affect the animation of the cards. So I'm going to start describing the animation of the grid by creating a variable. I'm going to create a variable and name it grid animation. Of course, I'm going to export it. So export const grid animation. This grid animation is going to be an object. I'm going to describe the animate property. I'll call it show. And what I want is to describe the transition. In this transition, I want to stagger the children, which are the cards. So the grid is the container of the cards. So I will stagger the children. I'll stagger the children by 0.1. Then I'll also describe the exit animation. I'll call it hide. It's going to be a copy of this, but I'm going to add the stagger direction. I'll explain that later. So after staggering the children, I'm going to set the stagger direction. I'll stagger it by 0.1 also. Not 0.1, but -1, because it's going to be opposite. Save that. What I mean is that when the animation starts, because I've set a stagger children, there will be a delay of 0.1 seconds between the animation of the cards. So if this one starts, there will be a delay of 0.1 seconds before this one starts. Then the delay applies to all of the remaining cards. Now, because the starting animation, the exit animation starts with the first car, to change it to start with the last car, I use a negative direction. That's why I've used a stagger direction of -1 here. Now, we are done with describing how the grid is going to dictate the way the cards are going to animate. So I'll right away move to describing how the animations of the cards will happen. So I'll export that also. I'll call it card animations. This one is also going to be an object. So I'll describe the animate property. I'll call it show. So I'll start by setting the Y position. I'll be using keyframes. So I'll want the cards to move from position of 200 back to 0. Then the other thing that I want to describe here is the opacity. I'll still use keyframes here so that the opacity moves from 0 to 1. Then I'll also describe the scale. So I want the size to change from 0.95 to 1. So I'll use keyframes like that. Then I'll describe the exit animation, which is going to be the opposite of what I have as the animate property. So I'll change this to 0, then to 200, then change the opacity from 1 to 0, then change the scale from 1 to 0.95. Like that. Let me save that. Then we are going to test this out and see how the animations will happen. So because we have exported them, and I told you that this grid is displayed by this cards.js. So this is the parent, which represents the grid, and this is the cards which represent these cards that we have here. So first, before you do any animation, you have to import the basic component for the animation from FrameMotion, that is the motion component. So I'm going to import motion from FrameMotion. Then I'll also import my components from the animation component, file. So the first one is a grid animation. Then the other one is a card animation. Like that. Then we shall prefix motion in our animating components. Then I'll set the variants. So for the grid, it's a grid animation. Then the animate property is the same as the show. Then exit property is the same as hide. Let's save that. Then I'll describe the cards animation. So prefix motion. Then bring in the variants. So the variants for the card is going to be card animation. Like that. So because the parent is dictating how the child animates, we are not going to describe the animate and the exit property here. We only need to put the variant. So if we save this and head back to the browser, there is an error, an attempt of import error of card animation is not exported from this. Let's check if the spelling has an issue. Card animations. So let me change this back to animation, just like that. See if it's gone. Yeah, the error is gone. So you can see that is happening. So what I'm going to do is to refresh. Everything is animating out. I forgot to change this to hide. So let's make it hide. Then go back. Refresh. Good. So navigating away, it's not working. I'll fix that. Coming back, it's working. Animating away, not working. Back, it's working. So what we are going to do is to bring in the AnimatePresence component from FrameMotion. So if you visit FrameMotion official website, you'll be able to see how the AnimatePresence component works. So let's move to components, which is this one here. So that is the AnimatePresence component. Let's just wait for it to load. So it's just loaded. Now, AnimatePresence component allows components to animate out when they are removed from the React tree. Remember, we have the React router, which allows the components within the switch to be displayed one at a time. So we only have one route being displayed at a time. It means that when we navigate to that particular route, that route is mounted into the tree and all the other routes are removed from the tree. So because the routes or the components are being removed from the tree, it means that this AnimatePresence is going to help us to detect that and allow the animations to take place before the unmounting is done. Now, to be able to use the AnimatePresence component, first you have to import it from the FrameMotion library. So we are going to do that, and we are going to apply that within where our routes has been described. So I'm going to import AnimatePresence from FrameMotion. Then the component that we want to perform the effects of the AnimatePresence, we are going to wrap it with the AnimatePresence. Let me just set this up like that. So this is going to be AnimatePresence. This one is also going to be AnimatePresence. Sorry. Like that. I think I made a mistake here. This is supposed to be wrapping the switch like that. Yeah. Then if we navigate back to the website, it says that this enables the use of an exit prop which can define the state of for the component to animate to before it's unmounted from the DOM. Now, note that the child motion component must each have a unique key prop, so AnimatePresence can track their presence in the tree. Now, the route that will be present in the switch statement will have a unique key, which is going to be the path name of the route. So to be able to access the path name of the route, we need to import a hook from the React router. And this hook is known as the use location hook. So we are going to do that. So the use location hook enables us to be able to access the path name of the router. So to be able to access the use location hook, we are going to represent that in a variable. I'll call it location, which is the same as the use location hook, and the signature is that. Then if you console log this, you can try this one out in your browser. You'll be able to see that this location is an object with different properties, and one of the properties is the path name. So we are going to use the location inside the switch component, and the location is the same as that location that we have described using the use state hook, the use location hook. Then the key is going to be unique, of course, and it's going to be the location, and the property of the location is the path name, this one here. So let me save that. Let's now head to the browser and see if we are able to perform the exit animation. So when we are exiting, you can see it's working, and when we are coming back, it's working. So that is the power of use presence component from the FrameMotion library. Now, the next part that we are going to animate is going to be this H3 tag. So we want it when the component is animating out, the cars will be moving down and it should move up. Then when the incoming animations are taking place, it should move from up to its original position as the cars move from down to their original position. So I'm going to describe that in my animation.js. I'll call it H3 animation. So I'm going to export it. So it's going to be an object as usual. And what I want is to describe the Y position. So I'll describe the animate property. I'll call it show, just as I have done with the other animations. So the Y position, I want it to be negative 100 to make things simple, because I haven't described the initial prop of the animation. I'll use keyframes. So it's going to be negative 100, then to 0. Then I will also describe the opacity. For the opacity, I'll still use keyframes, that is from 0 to 1. There should be a comma here. Then I'll do the description for the scaling. The scaling is going to be from 0.9, so I'll use keyframes, then to 1. There should be a constant here. Then I'll describe the exit prop or the exit animation. I'll call it hide, which is just going to be the opposite of what I have in the animate property, which is show. So I'll basically copy this to save on time, then paste there. Then I'll change the values from 0 to negative 100, then from 1 to 0, then from 1 to 0.5, from 1 to 0.95, no, not 0.95, but 0.9, like that. Let me save that. Then I'm going to import it in this file here. So it's a H3 animation. Then I'm going to prefix motion in the H3 tag. Then I'll bring in the variant or variants. It's H3 tag or H3 animation. Then I'll describe the animate property, which is the same as a show. Then the exit property, which is the same as hide. So let me save that, then head back to the browser and see if the animation is happening. You can see that. So when the component is animating out, you can see how the H3 is moving, like that. So I'm much done with this section here. So I'm now going to move to the single product page, which is this one here. I'll start describing the animations in my animation file very fast. So we are going to start with this section here, the section that is housing the car and this text, but not the navigation. The navigation bar remains the same. So basically this one is being housed by this div. The div that is housing the image and the text is which one? Let me check. It is the image and text, this one here. This is where we are going to perform our animation from. So I'm going to just give it a simple name. I'll call it car animation. Of course, I'm going to export it. So export car animation. It should be const car animation. It should be car, not car there. So what I'm going to do is change the width, display with the width of that component or that div. So I'll describe the animate property. Of course, I'm going to call it show, just the way I've done with the others. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to play with the width, just as I said earlier. So I'll be using keyframes. I want the width to move from 200 view width to 100 view width. Then I'm also going to play with the opacity. So I want the opacity to move from 0 to 1. So it should move from 0 to 1. I think I made a mistake here. Yeah, let me fix that. I think those are the only properties we are going to play with. Then I'll describe the exit, which is going to be the opposite of this. So I'll copy and change things around. So I'll call this height. Then I'll reverse the values. So this should be 100, back to 200. Then this should be 1 to 0. Like that. And there should be a comma here because it's an object. So let me save that. Then I'm going to import this in the car file. So car animation from animations, then I have to import the motion component from frame motion. Like that. Then this is the div that I'm going to animate. So I'll prefix motion here. Then I'll bring in the variants. The variant is the same as car animation. Then I'll describe the animate property. This one is going to be show. Then finally I'll describe the exit, which is going to be hide. So let's save that. Head back to the browser. So you can see the animation is happening. Exit animation is working. The incoming animation is not appearing, but it's happening. The reason why it's not appearing is because let me go back to app.js and explain that. It's because when the exit animation starts happening here, even the incoming animation starts happening on the opposite route, and therefore they seem to take place in the same time. So to avoid that, we are going to put a prop here called exit before enter in AnimatePresence. This will allow one animation to take place first, then the other one will happen. So as you can see, the exit animation, then like that. There is a flicker in our animations, and I'm going to fix that in my style sheet. So what happens is that because I never described the initial props of my animations in my components, as you can see, I only have 2 props in each animation. There's supposed to be 3. So to save on that, what I'm going to do is set the opacity of all the animating components to 0 in my style sheet. So the first one is the H3 tag, which is this one here. So I'm going to set its opacity to 0. And the other one is this card. So I'm going to set the opacity to 0. Then number 3 is going to be the car and the image and the text, this one. So let me save that. So you can see the flicker is gone, like that. So the animations now appear to be smooth. Now the other thing that I'm going to fix is this background here. You can see when the components animate in, this seems to be, just pops in and there's no any smooth transition. So to fix that, I'm going to describe the animations for the div that is housing that. So if we move to car.js, these are the divs that I have, that is the image and the text. Then I have this container div. So what I'm going to do is check where the background is set. I can't remember that, but if I navigate to my single product page, this is where I have described the background. It is the car class. So if I navigate back, the car class is in which area? It's here. So this is actually where I'm supposed to perform my animations. So I'm going to move them from this position to the car. So I'm going to copy everything with the variant. In fact, I'm going to cut it and transfer it to that area. Doesn't seem to be happening. So I'm going to cut that and paste there. Then I'm going to remove this motion from this area and put it here. Like that, save that. Then I'm also going to change the opacity of the car component so that we avoid that flickering. So opacity is going to be 0. Then I'm going to remove this. Save that. Then head back to the browser. If we navigate to a single product page, you can see everything animates in smoothly like that. That is what I wanted. Yeah. So I'll leave a link to the GitHub repository so that you'll be able to access the source code and all the resources of the project. Then if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you'll be part of this amazing channel. Support the channel, share so that we are able to grow together and share this amazing content. Thank you for your time. See you in the next video.